What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me I have some more RPG horror stories. I'm just recording on regular desktop for today because I just woke up, but we still got some RPG horror stories to cover and a very special announcement. Mary and I are gonna make a special video about a homebrew class we put together after watching a movie, one of Mary's favorites. Anyway, we made The Witch. Check it out down links below. Give us some feedback. We have a Google form opened up for it. Check it out right now. Please give us feedback. We're interested in feedback. We want to see what you think and maybe even change up some things if they seem missing. Without further ado, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. The worst DM is also the worst player. So here's a long-awaited follow-up story of Echo, our terrible DM. I'll link the previous story down below for context, but the TLDR is Echo the DMPC is literally a super god. Have spent 9 IRL months being his lackeys and now playing the module. Wait a minute, we actually covered this story before in the past. I don't remember which specific video it was. Honestly, the videos kind of meld together, and I gotta be honest guys, I'm starting to forget which specific video that it even was. I have to try to find it, but it's definitely somewhere in the channel. But I remember we covered the story at some point. Anyway, at the end of the day, you don't have to worry too much about it. Basically, everybody serves a DMPC, and the DMPC is literally just a super god. That's literally it. So after the awful campaign came to an end and we stopped playing D&D altogether for about a year. That was until my friend moved close to us and asked if we could be interested in starting a new D&D campaign with him as the DM. We heard from other friends that he was a great DM, so we were all just excited to get started. The cast are as follows, with some previous players not returning. Me playing Aileen, an elf blood hunter ranger, Big Tat playing Yehuna, a big blue sexy Goliath barbarian, Paladin from previous game now playing Akan, a fighter UNT, and finally, Echo, playing Sparky, a Twilight Cleric. His choice of class will become important later. Wait. So, you had a problem with a DM to the point where it stopped you guys from playing for, what, a whole year almost, and you decide to invite the problem DM to your game willingly? I mean, he's either got to be like a really good friend and you just really felt bad for him, or maybe you guys were that desperate for numbers or something, but why would you invite a problem DM to the game? If you already had a bad experience with a person, I wouldn't want to play with somebody like that, regardless of what happened. And I know at the end of the day, yeah, people can change, and like, if you had like a year is a long time for somebody to be able to change and reflect on themselves, so there's no way, you would think there would be no way that wouldn't have reflected, right? I think if you have a problem player or problem DM that you had bad experience with, I think there's a certain level of caution that should still be adhered to. You shouldn't just be like, oh, it's been about a year, there's no way Echo is going to be that bad from last time, right? There's no way. Some people just don't change. There's some people that are so fixated on their problems and issues and complexities and whatever they got going on, whatever complex they got going on, and they will never end up changing. You got to be very cautious and careful around people like that, because I'm not saying to be completely suspicious of Echo, but at least be, take things on a cautious side. If Echo showed problem play behavior or problem DM, just problem at the table behavior, it's something you probably should be aware of and try to consider it for when you're inviting Echo back to some sort of other game. Nevertheless, let's continue. So we start off the adventure, and for the first few weeks everything goes well. Until it doesn't. Of course it does. Sparky, for some reason, despite being a good aligned character, insists on picking fights with guards when he doesn't get his way, freeing trapped angry polar bears and being surprised when they attack, just generally being very antagonistic towards things he doesn't like. All these actions have a rollover effect, and we are as a group. We try to have a chat with him about it, and his behavior improves, but not for long. His character, for some context, was all over the place in general. Kept on asking the DM to make sanity checks, even though that wasn't a mechanic we were using, and then using his result as an excuse for whatever nonsense he was up to. Okay, players that self-impose sanity checks for flavor and roleplay, like to decide what the character would do in a specific moment if the character is a little bit shaky, that'd be one thing, as long as it doesn't affect the actual thing. But this player almost like inserts it into as a hardcore mechanic for everybody else to deal with. You know what this is? This isn't a funny, quirky mechanic for a player to be able to roleplay their character. This is a difficulty check. The player is himself turning the character into a stupid ass difficulty check for the rest of the party without okaying it with the DM and okaying with the rest of the players, and is forcing on everybody. And this is the perfect moment, I feel, is for the DM to come in and say, no, you are not a difficulty check, you're not a DM mechanic, you're not a campaign mechanic, you're a player, act like it. And don't start doing random sanity checks or anything specific with sanity if it's not part of our game's mechanic. I feel like if you're doing a sanity check, it should be something that should be okayed by the DM, not by the player themselves. and I feel like maybe Echo didn't okay it. He just wanted to just be zany, quirky character and use the sanity checks as excuse to just act out. Then there was his class. Now, spoilers for Rime of the Frost Maiden here, so skip to the next part if you want to avoid any spoilers. We're infiltrating a Dwargar stronghold to the mountains, and Sparky kept on insisting we went a certain route, even though once again, as a party, we decided to go another. It was huffy, but relented. When we got ambushed by the Dwargar, Sparky made a comment like, "Should have listened to me," went to the initiative and started fighting. But when it came to the Dwargar's turn, they were invisible and got the upper hand. That's when Sparky, with a massive grin on his face, cast Fairy Fire. But DM had other plans. He then describes the Dwargar running away, leaving us to chase after them, right onto a massive trap. We ended the session there, and Sparky made a comment about that. That's not what was meant to happen here. Okay, metagaming is also a big no-no, regardless if you play this module or not. If a DM decides to want to take the module in a slightly different twist or slightly different way, that is fine for the DM to do so. At the end of the day, if you're playing the same story over and over, imagine, if you will, if, wait a minute, you don't have to imagine. Pretend you're just playing Baldur's Gate over and over and over again, and the same encounter happens all the time. How boring would that be? I mean, maybe you probably find ways to take on the encounter different ways, try something different. Use 40,000 explosive arrows instead of 20,000 this time around. Ha ha ha. But like at the end of the day, if a DM decides to want to change the encounter depending on what you guys are doing, and if you guys are casting Fairy Fire and the enemy is like, well, my invisibility won't work, I guess we'll run away and lead them to the trap, that kind of makes sense for them to do so. So it's perfectly fine if the DM decides to change the course of action. At the end of the day, what you do at your D&D table is whatever you want to do at your D&D table. It doesn't matter. You can take a module and completely flip it upside down if you really want to. Do whatever you want. D&D encourages you specifically to adhere to some mechanics, ignore some mechanics, change things up as you go, whatever fits your table at the current moment. Just do what you guys want to do. There's no wrong way to play D&D aside from, well, I mean, I guess the sins of D&D. There's not really a wrong way to play D&D, but there's many sins of playing D&D and having a problem DM or problem player do some really bad over the table. Of course, you shouldn't be doing these kind of things that makes the entire table feel uncomfortable. But like, if a DM decided, okay, Dwargar will probably want to lead the party into a trap, makes sense to me. For this player to be like, that's not what was meant to happen here. Okay, metagamer, way to flag yourself for being like, I know everything is gonna happen in this module, so I can metagamer predicted. This guy's just a jerk. He's honestly just spoiling it for everybody else. I bet everybody else is just excited just to play something, and this guy is just coming in here with all the meta knowledge, just be like, I knew exactly what you do. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Even if you know what a module has up going on right there, don't do that to your DM and the rest of the players. Just let them enjoy the fun and the ride. Echo is not the kind of person that wants to play together with everybody else, because if they did, they wouldn't care what the Dwargar are doing, and they would just follow the rest of the party and just play along and have a good time. If you know what a module's got going on and other people don't, play along. That is the most best way you can contribute to enjoying the fun with everybody. Even if you know the meta knowledge, doesn't matter. Play along anyway and do what makes sense for your character in that moment. After he left, me and the DM sat and discussed his behavior and why he was so tilted by some encounters we've had. It was then the DM dropped the bombshell. Sparky had read the module and was trying to beat the game. It all suddenly made sense. His class choice directly countered a lot of the enemy types in the module. He constantly forcing us in certain direction to avoid traps and ambushes, and the way he would insist on interacting with NPCs, only to be disappointed with the outcome he got. I was annoyed. What's the point if he's just going to cheat and try to win the game while making it miserable for the rest of us? DM assured me that he had a plan that Sparky was not going to get the module as written, because he had tailored it and our way of playing and our character backstories. And sure enough, as the weeks went on, Sparky's frustrations became more and more apparent as things he expected to happen didn't. Personally, I was loving it. Our DM had obviously put a lot of time and effort to make the story connect to our characters rather than just as written, but it all came to a head due to an encounter that once again the party wanted to deal with one way and Sparky decided to deal with his way. So picture this. You just rocked up to a suspected hag's cave in an isolated icy mountain. Outside you see the remains of previous adventuring party who dare try to enter, smeared all over the ice. You decide to send the stealthiest character to have a snoop around before charging in. While inside, you find more humanoid remains, a butcher room, most disturbing thing, a 30-foot undead frost giant entombed in ice. You report back to the rest of your group and decide that stealth is very much the correct decision. Now, does your cleric A, follow the plan and help your character stealth their way in? B, ask the god for guidance before blessing your fellow party members? Or C, ignore all the other party members, run up to the entrance of the cave and shout at the top of the lungs, "Hello, you're the cave!" If you guess C, you're correct. Well, as the DM, there was any way to stop this, but unfortunately, Sparky had made it clear that he had ran ahead. So out comes the 30-foot undead frost giant and initiative starts. I rolled super high and went first. Turn to the DM and say, I use dash action and use my full movement to get away from Sparky because let's be honest here, there's no way my character would put his life on the line for him after repeatedly not working with the team and putting our lives in danger. As he runs away, you hear her cursing your name, Sparky. She gives you the finger. He was stunned, and I was done. The other two players love a fight though, so we did end up fighting the UFG, and I got the killing blow from distance using my bow. Sparky spent the whole combat unconscious, as right after I went, I was a Frost Giant's turn, and he used all 3 attacks to turn Sparky into a Twilight Paste. Very satisfying. After session, we all had a chat with Sparky telling him that maybe best he retire his character, as clearly he wasn't working. But in case with the most of these D&D horror stories, the trash took itself out. He permanently stepped away from the group. After a few weeks, we brought in a new player, and she has been the best addition to the team ever. So, happy ending. Happy ending is a happy ending. Unfortunately, some people may even be like, but Morrow, everything went good. I have to say something here. Mostly because I feel like if I don't, I'm gonna be just ignoring my principles in general. I think the way you guys handle the whole point of having Sparky leave went fine. However, I don't think you should be taking problems in-game and handle them in-game. Doing something like this to any other party member is kind of an a-hole thing. You just running away and abandoning the party member right then and there so they can get stomped up, and you guys left the character unconscious. Put yourself in a situation, regardless of whatever Sparky did or Echo did prior to this, whatever they did prior to this, put yourself in any situation. Do you think that would be fair? If I was put in a situation, let's say for example, maybe I wasn't a jerk, but I was still put in a situation regardless, I would think that'd be a little bit unfair. Just leave me on the ground unconscious the whole time while everybody else has fun fighting the Frost Giant and going through this big battle. Especially if as a cleric, I could maybe help out or something, you know? In this context, I'm not gonna judge you too hard about it, but I would just say that it's probably best to not deal with these problems in game, but deal with them out of game. If Echo is just being this much of a nuisance the whole time to the point where it just makes it more difficult and more painful for everybody else to play and have fun, then I feel like maybe it's best you probably should just remove him early on. I mean, clearly he's a problem player, and no matter how many times he says, oh, stop doing it, he doesn't stop doing it. At some point, you need to stop doing like a 3-strike system, 4-strike system, 5-strike system even. I just tell to the person, listen, you cause so many problems, you cause so many issues. You're clearly here not to play the game. You're here to try to win the encounters and be the very best. I'm not gonna have that at the table, so you are out, and just find a different player to play with. You probably would have spent so much more fun times and didn't have to go through this whole rigmarole just to try to get the guy kicked out. Again, I think the way you guys did things is fine, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's just better. It's easier for you and your sanity to not be so tolerant to problem play behavior and just have this be handled out of game before it comes over into an in-game issue. Did the jerk deserve the outcome? Yeah, I feel like the jerk did deserve the outcome to basically get slapped down by an undead frost giant. Perfectly fine. But also you guys should have probably handled this out of game early on, so you didn't even have to deal with him for this whole point, for this whole thing. I don't know, man. Like, I get it. It's part of the story climax. Ooh, this is where the problem player gets the comeuppance and quits out and decides to leave, permanently stepping away from the campaign and stuff. Great. The trash took itself out. Awesome. Fantastic. However, just for the future, don't waste time with problem players. They're not worth your time, your sanity, or your enjoyment, or the draining of your enjoyment. If a problem player is a problem player, simply just ask him to leave. Simple as that. Anyway, avoid people like Sparky or Echo or whatever we want to try to use. People that read the module ahead of time to try to win D&D are the worst kind of players because they're trying to beat everything. They're not here to engage in a fun story and actually participate in something really fun and cool. They're here to try to win everything and be the victors and victorious and all that stuff. Players like that, thankfully, I don't have to deal with myself, but players that specifically try to win every single encounter and read ahead and learn ahead, those are the kind of players that are really difficult to deal with. Let's get to the next story for today. Druid gives us puppies, and it's exactly what you're expecting. I was playing Pathfinder 2e today in my long-term Kingmaker game, and the party druid showed up to start the session saying he had presents for everyone. First, I thought it was probably just a magic item or something small, but then he brought out 4 crates. Inside each of them was a puppy. It was honestly pretty cute and felt like a fitting gift for the druid, especially since his animal companion is a golden retriever. It matched his character well and didn't seem out of place at first, but then he explained that the puppies were from a litter between him and his own animal companion, which he had done but while shaping? No. That's an immediate ban from my table. Immediate insta ban. Holy fucking shit, Batman. No. Okay, whose bright idea was it? Was it the players or was it the DMs for allowing this to be a thing? Actually, does the DM even say anything here? Before I say my words and thoughts on this, let's read along because I need to know if the DM banned this guy or not. This immediately shocked the entire group. It felt extremely out of place, since essentially bestiality and assault, and bringing that kind of sexual content into an otherwise normal game was pretty insane. This is beyond that. This is someone's sick fetish. This is that, all that, and more. A sick fetish. We all told him as much as he kept trying to justify by saying his character is a nature spirit. So he's one with nature and is not technically bestiality, along with other similar arguments. Convenient excuse for a dirty animal rapist. In the end, we basically had to move on from the topic and pretend it didn't happen. But he kept bringing it up and saying he wanted puppies to be part of the story. The rest of us would honestly rather they just didn't exist. What do you guys think? Nah, immediately, degenerates like him belong in a cross. There's a certain point where in society we became way too tolerant of this kind of sick behavior. Why is this not an immediate ban from a table, an immediate kick from the table? I am fucking shocked. I have no fucking idea. Okay, real talk. Whose fucking idea was this? Was this the Druid's idea? Or the DM that probably approved of? Was like, yeah, you could have puppies with your animal companion. Who the... Okay, hold on. This is the kind of stuff that you need to talk with the DM about. Be like, hey, DM, can I do this sick, disgusting, perverse, horrifying monstrosity of behavior with my own animal companion as a druid? And if the DM's response isn't an immediate kick or ban for this player, then you already have a problem right there. Not only do you have a disgusting pervert that wants to have those fetishes or disgusting, sick, twisted fetishes validated. And yes, I personally consider bestiality an extremely perverse fetish. This shit is fucked up. Leave animals alone, you sickos. But also, if the first words from the DM isn't no, then I am shocked. Or like some sort of no, they really want those puppies to be part of the story because they want to have the fetishes be validated. Listen, some people are just sick out there. Some people are just so sick and fucked in the head to the point where they want to be just use any sort of game as a way to validate those sick, disgusting, perverse fetishes. We've seen stories about this kind of stuff. People trying to do pedophilia or now bestiality or rape and try to make that stuff be validated fetish or some other twisted thing like gang and stuff, gang banging. There's some people out there that just want to bring in those fetishes and their kinks into every single game because they want to have those kinks be validated because daddy never loved them or mommy never loved them or nobody gave them enough attention. So now suddenly they want to be a pick-me. They want to be somebody that's like, look at me, everybody. I'm the main center of attention for everybody. Hee. Look at my fetishes. Validate my fetishes. Approve my fetishes. And we have too much tolerance for these kind of sex freaks. And honestly, listen, I'm somebody that is honestly, I'm okay with lewd content. I'm okay with somebody being a little bit like dumb, like hee penis joke, ha hee immature comedy. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm very sex positive when it comes to me being as a person completely, but this is the kind of stuff you don't bring to a TTRPG table. You leave this stuff out for the kinky tables, for other people that you play with or other sick freaks that you want to talk about these kind of sick perverse fetishes with, not to a regular game where people just want to play some Pathfinder 2e Kingmaker. Leave the rest of the people, leave the rest of the regular people of the society alone. Leave the perverse stuff to the other freaks that also share your fetishes with. I hope you don't find a lot of people out there that have the bestiality fetish, because this stuff is honestly fucked up. Leave animals alone. This is the kind of player behavior that should be outlawed at the tables. If a player brings in bestiality or any sort of other grotesque fetishes to the table where this is not the kind of table to do this kind of stuff in, then you immediately need to ban them. And the fact that DM didn't immediately just shut the idea down and kick the player out and allowed for the player to bring this up at the table, the fact this wasn't immediately shut down at the table by the DM kind of maybe shows that maybe the DM was not paying attention. Maybe it's one of those DMs that's like, players can do whatever, I don't care as long as I get to tell my story. Which I think at some point we need to all, as players, as TTRPG players, just start saying no to these kind of things. The fact that you guys at this table didn't just immediately shut the guy down and remove from the table is a little bit concerning. I get you guys were uncomfortable, but this honestly, in my opinion, should have been an immediate kick. Insta kick. I don't care what kind of sick freak you are behind the closed doors, but leave that stuff at home when you're playing regular ass TTRPGs. Stop bringing fetishes to TTRPGs. It is disgusting. If you want to have those disgusting fetishes be validated, go to the other dredges of the universe for that. Let's get to the next story for today. Insane Chud pitches in-game necrophilia. Oh Okay, listen, as I said before, leave your disgusting fetishes at the door. Oh my god, god damn it, can we please stop having, why am I getting double, like back-to-back disgusting fetishes? What the hell is this? Subject of the story, we'll call him Johnner. Hint in a backstory that was over the top and insane for level 3 character, ripping off the battle of the 5 armies of all things. And frankly, I could do a whole post about that crap show alone. But today I want to talk about what should have been a normal trip to the local pub with my friends, which included Johnner. At the time, we're all super excited to play. We all had our phones out, we're talking about class abilities and spells. Everyone was planning on talking when we eventually play. At this point, Johnner asks about whether or not I would homebrew spells. I said sure, as long as I didn't think there was something similar enough rules written, and asked what kind of thing he was after. For his first spell, he asked about making undead panthers. He was planning on playing a necromancer. This would be important. I said sure, and that I could probably make something that would work easy enough. It was now when I asked if he wanted any other spells homebrewed, making clear that they needed to be a higher level. I could put them in down the line. He asked me if though any spells were keeping bodies fresh. I thought nothing of this since he was planning to play a necromancer, so he said there was gentle repose and showed him the spell description, at which point he asked if there was a spell that lasted longer than 24 hours. So I said no, but I wouldn't mind him homebrewing one or letting him upcast gentle repose to last longer. I then asked naively, do you want to try to make your zombies look more normal like bodyguards? He then replied, yeah, that, but also keep the women fresh. Okay, no, that's an immediate ban from my table. That's when you know you just got sick, disgusting pervert. That is an immediate ban. The very first thing you should be doing is saying no. I'm just in shock as I realize he wants to make zombie fricadolls. I then shout, are you talking about screwing corpses? At which point he shrugs. Our friends are all shocked or awkwardly laughing, thinking it's a tasteless joke. That's what most of us walk away thinking. The bar staff asked us to keep it down, probably because they heard me shouting about corpse screwing. I apologize to the staff and we move on. Later on, I find out something about John that makes me choose to not spend time with him, and he soon leaves the country to the Philippines to flee assault charges against multiple young girls. And while my knowledge of the worst of Johnner's evils was mostly after I knew him, his weird comment during campaign prep will always stand out. Thankfully, I never actually played D&D with this guy. I did with the rest of the group though, and the campaign ran for 2 years and will come to close soon, and more campaigns to follow with the same amazing group. John, if you're reading this, screw you. That is not a chud. The one problem I have with the story is this: you title this as an insane chud. This is not a chud. That's a sex criminal. That is straight up literally a sex criminal fleeing the country to Philippines on assault charges against young women. And specifically didn't specify how young. Could be as young as like under 18, which is absolutely horrifying to think about it. His comment to keep the women fresh, God, it just makes my skin crawl. This is the kind of person that honestly puts me in a fight or flight. If somebody in front of me told me that, it would put me in a fight or flight and mostly into a fight. This is the kind of stuff that makes me feel so just uncomfortable to the core, man. Ugh. Like I said, I couldn't care less about someone's fetishes, but as soon as you uncork that bottle and just let your fetishes loose, every part of me will go into a fight or flight, because honestly, I'd rather just not experience anything that you have to do. If your fetish is a sex crime, then your brain has been rotted and you probably should reconsider your stuff. Or at least, like, okay, listen, I couldn't care about your incest, wincest, hentai fetish. I couldn't care less. I don't care what kind of sick things you're into. Whatever you're into, remember, it is a fetish, it is a kink, and should probably be enjoyed in closed doors and not be brought to a TTRPG table, or let alone the actual public. Keep that stuff in private, keep that stuff locked away, do not talk to people openly about these sort of things, and definitely don't have a sex criminal joining your game. It is crazy that you have to find out that your friend left the country on assault charges in this specific way, but you know what, it made sense after he said the keep the women fresh comment. God, that is grotesque. Why did we get stories back to back like this, dude? I was put into fight or flight. I'm still in fight or flight from just the absolute shock of it all. People are insane out there.
And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.